Cathay Pacific and Hong Kong Express announced more flight cancellations due to a sharp rise in aviation fuel prices. U.S. and Iranian negotiating teams arrive in Pakistan for peace talks. And Housing Secretary Winnie Ho says a mock-up of a basic housing unit will be set up for people to take reference from. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Cathay Pacific and Hong Kong Express have announced flight cancellations from mid-May to the end of June, citing a sharp rise in aviation fuel prices. Affected passengers will be notified of new arrangements by next Monday. After Cathay Pacific and Hong Kong Express raised fuel surcharges for most flights earlier this month, the latest impact from the surge in oil prices are flight cancellations. Cathay Pacific says it will cancel about 2% of its passenger flights between May 16th and June 30th. The affected routes are mainly short-haul services, along with a small number of flights to and from Australia, South Asia, and South Africa. Flights to and from Dubai, UAE, and Riyadh, Saudi Arabia will remain grounded until June 30th. Hong Kong Express will also cancel around 6% of its passenger flights between May 11th and June 30th. The airline primarily operates routes to mainland China, East Asia, and Southeast Asia. All affected passengers will be rebooked onto alternative flights flying within 24 hours of their original scheduled departure time. CX said aviation fuel prices have risen from about $100 per barrel at the end of February to some $209 recently and remained at high levels. The airline said the decision was made after careful consideration with efforts to minimize disruption to passengers. Yun Chen-ning, chief executive of travel agency WWPKG, says May and June are traditionally the low season for travel, and the impact of recent flight cuts is expected to be limited. He says, for example, fuel surcharges on flights to Japan have risen from around $200 to more than $700 and could increase further to $1,500. Airlines may not want to shift all the costs onto passengers. With some flights being 70 to 80% full, reducing some services could push passenger loads to 90 or even 100%, which is a reasonable measure to ease financial burdens. Yun adds that apart from CX and Hong Kong Express, some South Korean airlines have also indicated that they may trim flights to Hong Kong. Ceasefire talks between Iran and the U.S. are set to begin today in the Pakistani capital of Islamabad. Sources say Washington has agreed to release frozen Iranian assets held in Qatar and other foreign banks, a move viewed by Tehran as a signal for reaching long-term peace. Timothy Lee has more.
The U.S. delegation led by Vice President J.D. Vance arrived in Pakistan's capital this morning ahead of the peace talks. Other key members of the delegation include envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law. Tehran believes the move to be a positive signal to reaching a long-term peace, adding that the released assets are directly linked to the safe passage of vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian media reported that its delegation will first discuss with Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who is serving as mediator on the time and format of the peace talks. Reports also say that Pakistan's Chief of Defense Forces, Asim Munir, had earlier met with the Iranian delegation. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters in Maryland that the U.S. delegation's primary objective is to ensure that Iran does not possess nuclear weapons. He also believes the Strait of Hormuz will be open in the near future.
Now we're going to open up the Gulf, with or without them, but that'll be open. We're going to be, or the Strait as they call it, and I think it's going to go pretty quickly. And if it doesn't, we'll be able to finish it off one way or the other. It's going well.
Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Lebanon and Israel have agreed to hold an initial meeting next Tuesday at the U.S. State Department in Washington to discuss a ceasefire. This as hundreds of supporters of the Iran-backed Hezbollah gathered outside the Lebanese Prime Minister's office in Beirut to protest scheduled direct talks with Israel. Tracy Furness reports.
Protesters in Beirut waved Hezbollah and Lebanese flags and shouted slogans including "We are at your service, resistance," and Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam is a Zionist, reflecting anger towards the current leadership and its diplomatic approach. This protester said, I stand with what is right today, and what is right says that these negotiations are treacherous. We are against these negotiations. This protester said, my brother is a martyr and my cousin is a martyr. Our blood has been spilled on this land and our state is conspiring against us. In the Lebanese town of Sidon, a funeral took place Saturday for personnel of the country's state security forces after 13 members were killed in an Israeli strike in the southern city of Nabataya on Friday. A UN spokesperson briefed the press on the developing situation in Lebanon as fighting between Hezbollah and Israel continues.
Turning to Lebanon, where our humanitarian colleagues tell us that the situation there continues to deteriorate and essential services for people in need are under extreme strain. The Lebanon's Ministry of Health reported the strikes on Wednesday across the country killed more than 300 people and injured over 1,100. This brings the total number of people killed in Lebanon since March 2nd to nearly 1,900, with more than 6,000 people injured. This is numbers given to us by the Lebanese government.
Meanwhile, Eastern Orthodox Christians in Beirut marked Good Friday under an atmosphere of fear following the latest Israeli strikes across several parts of the country, particularly in Beirut. This worshipper said the situation the country is going through right now is very dangerous and we understand the circumstances, but that doesn't stop us from celebrating the holiday. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Back locally, some residents of Wanford Court in Taipo have launched a petition demanding that Hop On, the management company of the estate, convene a homeowners meeting. Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs Alice Mack said she received complaints that same signatures were forged. Timothy Lee reports.
The government earlier appointed Hop On as Wanford Court's owner and corporation's manager through the Buildings Management Ordinance. Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs Alice Mack said Hop On is currently reviewing over 800,000 incorporation documents, including management fee payment records, refund arrangements, and contracts involving contractors. Some residents of Wanford Court had launched an online petition demanding that Hop On convene a homeowners meeting. Alice Mack said she received complaints from residents about signatures that were suspected to be forged. Mack says she understands that some residents have reported the incident to the police. Mack said her bureau has forwarded the information to law enforcement agencies, and she believes they will conduct further and more in-depth investigations. She said Hop On will arrange briefing sessions as soon as possible, adding there will be more than one briefing session to provide information to residents. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Housing Secretary Winnie Ho said authorities have received 5,557 registration applications for subdivided flats since the implementation of the Basic Housing Units Ordinance in March. She said the government will set up a mock-up unit of a basic housing unit for people to take reference from. Mimosa Ngai reports.
Under the Basic Housing Units Ordinance, owners must carry out necessary works to ensure that subdivided flats meet the criteria of basic housing units, including a minimum size of 8 square meters and a toilet. Speaking on a radio program, Housing Secretary Winnie Ho said that some owners are concerned about not fulfilling the standards set out in the law. Ho said that the government will set up a mock-up unit in an old building under the Urban Renewal Authority in May for owners to take reference from. More than 1,370 of the 5,557 applications are flats, with most of them located in Yau Tsim Mon, followed by Sam Shui Po and Hong Kong Island East. Ho also said 7 light public housing projects have been completed, offering more than 9,600 units. She noted that 310 of the households have managed to move to public housing units, adding that she is confident more residents will be able to go up the ladder. For general applicants, the average waiting time for public housing is 5.1 years. The Housing Secretary said her target figure for the next fiscal year is 4.5. Moments 9, TVB News.
Hong Kong singer Hins Cheung has revealed he is collaborating with the Security Bureau to serve as a mentor in the Positive Guidance Project, assisting young people involved in the anti-extradition bill protests to rebuild their lives. Timothy Lee reports.
Hins Cheung, who has been developing his career in Hong Kong for over 20 years since coming from Guangzhou, is a highly successful singer-songwriter. He will also become a mentor in the Security Bureau's Positive Guidance Project. In an interview with newspaper One Way Po, Cheung said he proactively contacted the Security Bureau through his company. He hopes to participate in this project to assist young people arrested but not prosecuted during the 2019 anti-extradition bill protests to establish correct values in life. He will be a guest speaker and plans to personally lead young people who had earlier lost their way to the mainland for exchange visits within the first half of the year, allowing them to witness firsthand the country's prosperity and progress. Hins Chung says he hopes to use his own experience to guide young people to recognize their mistakes and start anew. He says he does not want to teach them how to be good people, but rather to let young people know that someone cares about them by sharing his personal journey. He cited his own experience as an example, noting that his words and actions were impulsive in his youth, and he regrets his past ignorant behavior. He said that he was blinded by the social atmosphere at the time, and that some of his past remarks and works were inappropriate in their interpretation. They led to questions about his feelings and attitude towards the country and Hong Kong, for which he sincerely apologized. He said he deeply regrets his actions, promising not to repeat similar mistakes. He emphasized that the most important thing is to admit mistakes and correct them, believing that society will give truly remorseful young people a chance. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Welcome back. Kuomintang chairwoman Chen Li-wen continued her fifth day of visits in the mainland and met Beijing's party chief. Chen expressed hope to resume cross-strait exchanges between the palace museums of the mainland and Taiwan as soon as possible if the KMT runs Taiwan again. In the morning, Kuomintang chairwoman Chen Li-wen and her delegation visited the Sun Yat-sen Memorial Hall at Biyun Temple, also known as the Temple of Azure Clouds in Xiangshan, Beijing. There they bowed in respect to a statue of Dr. Sun, widely considered as the founding father of modern China. They also paid tribute at Sun's cenotaph within the temple grounds. Chen is on a six-day visit to the mainland at the invitation of President Xi Jinping, who also heads the Chinese Communist Party, marking the first sitting KMT leader to visit the mainland in a decade. She and her delegation are scheduled to return to Taiwan on Sunday. Today is World Parkinson's Day. Financial Secretary Paul Chan says he believes artificial intelligence can provide better treatment options for patients, adding that the government will offer support on multiple fronts. It's not your regular table tennis tournament here. At the Wan Chai Sports Ground, players rallied back and forth with determination. But what made the event unique is that participants are living with Parkinson's disease. Organized by the Hong Kong Society for Rehabilitation, the competition gathered around 100 patients from Hong Kong, mainland China, and Taiwan. Financial Secretary Paul Chan attended the opening ceremony and joined in the game. Speaking at the event, the finance chief says Hong Kong is at the forefront of medical research. Last month, Tuen Mun Hospital completed the city's first non-invasive histotripsy procedure to treat tremor-dominant Parkinson's disease. Paul Chan says the government will continue to support multidisciplinary teams in providing care across outpatient services, rehabilitation and community support for Parkinson's patients and their families. Chan says he firmly believes developments in startups such as artificial intelligence will bring better treatment options for patients. He said government fully supports the hospital authority in assessing and providing new drug options suitable for Parkinson's patients while tapping views on medication choices and waiting times. Ahead of Sunday's parliamentary election in Hungary, Prime Minister Viktor Orban called upon Hungarians to vote for security, stressing that his opponent would drag his country into the war in Ukraine. Speaking to a crowd of supporters in the city of Székesfehérvár, Orban said the finances of Hungary will end up in Ukrainian hands if a pro-Ukraine party wins Sunday's election. The Hungarian Prime Minister has launched an aggressively anti-Ukrainian campaign. This as his right-wing Fidesz party has been trailing in the most polls to top challenger Peter Mattia and his TSO party. The Civil Aid Service held an open day today at its Almaty headquarters to enhance public awareness of national security. More than 4,000 visitors attended the event. Mimo Sengai reports.
At the open day, the Civil Aid Service or the CAS demonstrated an emergency rescue and mountain search operation. Apart from the demonstration, the CAS members also taught visitors rescue skills. This boy, whose dad was a member of the service, said he hoped to join the team in the future. This woman, who traveled from Shenzhen for the open day, said she wanted to experience the challenges of rescuing people from mountains. Another aim of the event to enhance public awareness of national security. Leung Kun Hon, the chief staff officer of the CAS, said these game booths had incorporated 20 national security elements to help consolidate visitors' national security knowledge. Leung said the CAS had organized mainland exchange trips for the cadet corps, aiming to deepen their understanding of national security and the latest developments of the country. Mums 9, TVB News.
For another year, the two-day Songkran festival has turned the football pitch on Carpenter Road in Kowloon City into a festive waterfight playground. At the heart of the event is a lively splash zone, where families dive into the spirit of Thailand's New Year tradition. Children armed with water guns and basins dart in and out of the spray as the celebration unfolds in full swing. Visitors can reserve time slots online in advance and enter using a QR code, while a limited number of same-day tickets are available on site. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.